everyone, it's Jacqueline. Decided to do a weekly update. I think I'm actually a little bit later than a week. Um, anyway, sorry. So, yeah, I wanted to go over a couple of topics. I don't know if this one's going to be a little controversial, and I can go into my personal life later. I feel like I'm a little exhausted with my own personal life, but so yeah, we're having beautiful weather here. I think it's already hit the summertime in the south. Only problem is I know like next week it's going to be 100. So anyway, so yeah, there's a topic I've been wanting to go over. It's kind of the whole non-binary thing. I think I've got into this once before, but um, yeah, so I think I'm going to go into a little bit more today. I had someone, let me see if I can actually pull it up. So there was a girl that I know, a trans woman, and she posted that, she's tired of, so there's someone she was hanging out with or something like that, and they called her he, and they used their own pronouns, and she said that they called, said dude and stuff like that around her. And so, there's a lot of people who get very triggered quite easily. I'm trying to find her post. They get triggered quite easily when it comes to terminology like dude used with women, or especially around trans women, or the term guys. When they say call people guys. Hey guys, how are you guys doing? Stuff like that. And so I've seen people just really react badly. And of course, I live in the South, so they're all kind of country, and I can't seem to find it. But anyway, they're all kind of country. And so they use, they're like, well, everyone just needs to use y'all. That's what you need to use. You need to use y'all. I'm like, for the rest of the planet, like, this is the English language. So a lot of trans people, non-binary people and whatnot have condemned the use of the word dude. And to me, like, for example, like I have a client that I did his hair today, and we were in conversation about, I don't even know, just whatever. And he always responds, and I've done his hair for about 9 years. He goes, oh, yeah, man, I know. Like, he responds like that. And so I guess if I really think about it, I think if I was very insecure and I allowed it to come in, then I would see him as being, transphobic, but he's not. So I think the intent behind the use of the word is the most important thing. So now I've had people who have done something completely different that's much more straightforward. So I use the term dude all the time. I always use it in a conversation when like, dude, that's fucking crazy. Like, I'll say that. I think I've actually used that on my blog, and a lot of trans people condemn the word dude because it can possibly be offensive. And then there's a lot of trans people that say you should ask people their pronouns when you first meet them. Just in general, you should ask people. It doesn't matter if they're trans or not, or you don't know if they're trans, or, you should just ask people whenever you meet them. So say, like, I'm at my job, and I'm a stylist, and say, someone walks in and they look like a man, and they walk in and their name is Bill. We'll just use this as an example. That's how I know, because they asked for me or whatever, and I'm like, Bill. And to a lot of trans people or people in the community, it's almost like they've created this thing where, so when I met Bill, I should be like, oh, what pronouns do you prefer? I can't get on board with this. This is something that is happening in the trans community where I believe, personally, it's getting a bit ridiculous. And I understand, non-binary people. I understand that I'm also not fully educated on it. Hell, I'm never getting any surgery, so I could be non-binary if I really just decided one day I want to identify as non-binary. So it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't matter. For me, I am very feminine. But to be honest, with my past relationship, I'm actually more of the dominant one. I may not look butch, but it's almost like I have a very dominant personality, and I have a lot of traits that would be stereotypically male. I'm never getting surgery, so could I identify as non-binary? Anyone can identify as non-binary. You don't have to dress or be any different or anything like that. And so I find this whole thing, like checking people's pronouns, it actually takes the what is it? The effortlessness out of a conversation, and it becomes about the individual. It becomes like almost attention seeking. I hope I don't offend anybody out there with this subject, but to me, I feel like, so for example, there's someone that lives in Memphis that just kind of looks, in a stereotype way, just looks like a woman. It, looks like me. Their name is very feminine. I'm not going to say their name, but their name is, Susan. And they were out at dinner. And see, I will respect their non-conforming binary, their them, their, they, and all that stuff. I will respect that when it comes to them. But so they were all at a dinner, and I heard about this from a few people, and it was like 10 people. Some people had never met them, and someone heard their name, Susan, and the way they look, and I would say they look kind of like butch lesbian-y. And while they were all in a casual conversation, having drinks and dinner, and everybody's having a good time, someone referred to them as she. And it ended up being not a good night. It ended up being everyone at that table, like 10 different people, had to sit and listen to Susan explain why you can't just assume someone's gender, even if they're non-conforming or binary or whatever, queer or whatever it is. So you should never just assume because their name is Susan and they look like a woman that they're a woman. So that... God, and supposedly everyone was having such a good night, and the next thing you know, they're all left sober and just miserable, leaving this bar. And, like, what is Susan thinking? Like, how do you just suddenly think, like, well, I educated them? No, you ruined their fucking night. Like, so for me, non-binary is only understandable if you're willing to understand that other people won't know that you're non-binary. And it's not their job to keep up on who you are. Because there's people that are just non-binary one day and then they don't give a shit the next day and then they want to be a woman the third. And it's like, yeah. So I'm maybe an older transgender woman now, I guess, now that I'm 34, where I just don't understand this like need for clarifying oneself. Like, for example, I think it's quite clear what I'm going for in my life. And when I get pissed is when someone meets me and they find out that I'm transgender and then suddenly they change the way they speak to me because their intention is to disregard my transition as though it's nothing. So to me, that gets me. That bothers me. And I've had people do that. I once had a client of mine that I used to do her hair before I transitioned many years ago. I mean, this was 15 years ago. I used to do her hair, and she had a daughter at the time. And I remember she came in, and then I moved to California, and in that time period, I transitioned. And when I transitioned, I came back, and I look like I do now. And this was about 4 or 5 years later. And she came into the salon I was working back at as I moved back to the same city. And all she talked about was the stylist. And he was so amazing and how talented he was. And he used to do it like this and he used to do it like that. And she was talking about me before I transitioned. And I had to sit there and listen to this crap for about a year. I just didn't have the heart to tell her. I was like, oh God, this is going to be awkward. So eventually I told her, and she couldn't handle it. Like, it was almost like her brain sizzled and fried. And then the next time she came in, she asked for, my old name. And they were like, we don't have anyone that works here by that name. And she was like, yes, you do. I can't put up with this whole Jacqueline thing. He's in the back. He's got long hair now. Like, suddenly she just flipped. After a year, I was doing her hair, and she had no clue it was me or I was trans. And then she suddenly flipped because now that is where I have an issue with people. It's not, going to change. The way people think about me is never going to change how I feel about myself. I think I've learned that my dysphoria and dysmorphia is only triggered by myself. I will only allow it to be triggered by myself. Now, other people are no longer welcome to hold that sort of power over me. It doesn't matter if, what they say or what they do. People can tell me I have a mental illness. They can make up whatever the fuck they want. but it's never going to affect me. And I think a lot of trans people don't really realize how strong they can be. And a lot of people are just threatened by us. A lot of times we are very outspoken and strong and independent, and some people just can't handle that. A lot of women, I think, not to be egotistical, but I think they find themselves quite jealous of my ambition, and they want to almost like just knock me down just a little bit. Now, thankfully, where I work in my current job, no one does that, and they don't do it to each other, and they don't do it to me, and they're all very uplifting. And when I started at my job, it took people 5 months to come up with the topic that I was trans, and the only reason why they did was recently, and that was simply because, and no one ever asked, is simply because I posted a picture on my Instagram for Trans Visibility Day, and it was me before and after. So I showed my before I transitioned, which is kind of difficult for me because it's been so long. But I'm not afraid, and like I've said before, being transgender is nothing to be insecure or ashamed of. It is my greatest strength. It is my greatest teacher. It has been the greatest gift that I've ever received as a transgender person. And I think, a lot of people just really want to be, valid in people's eyes. It's almost like they use people's terminology or words and that to make them valid. And that is a very dark path. To wake up every day and you have to be validated by a stranger that you are who you are is a really scary path to go down. You're giving people way too much power over how you feel about yourself, how you see yourself, because at the end of the day, the only person that matters is you, and it's how you view yourself. So to be honest, everybody else can just go get a life, and everybody, you look at Instagram and you look at all these beautiful women and all these people who work out, and I work out a lot. I don't work out an insane amount. I can definitely do better. I can definitely get in way better shape than I am now. I feel very happy with what I got, but to get like where I really want to go, which is like completely ripped and toned, it's going to take a lot of work. But there's a lot of women I see on Instagram and they're just tiny waists, huge hips, big asses, long beautiful hair, tattoos, and they all have these looks. And of course I have this thing where I'm like, wow, I wish I could look like that. Like that's how I want to look, that's how I want to be. And at the end of the day, it's like, I think as I've gotten older, I realize I don't want to look like any of them. I want to look like me. Like I want to be me. I want to be myself. What are you doing, little dog? You want to come say hello to everybody? Oh my goodness, he wants to come say hello to all the viewers. Oh my lord, you want to come say hello? There we go. There's Chewini. Oh my goodness, come and say hello. Kiss, kiss. Oh please, you look so uncomfortable. You're gonna break my necklace. Anyway, have a seat, please. So anyway, you're a mess. So yeah, I feel like if you are transgender and you are trying to be validated by anyone but yourself, you are going down a dark path, including family. Your family isn't gonna, confirm your gender identity. People can be nice, but I honestly think at the end of the day, I lost a lot of my friends. I won't say I really lost family members, but it's never going to be the same. It never will be. It's one of those things where you're always an oddity, no matter what. So people can respect you, and you've got to respect people back for even giving the simplest try. Vilifying people when you're trans is a very dangerous path. Now, there are times when people are just dicks, but vilifying people or thinking that people are thinking things, because when you're on hormones, you can get quite unstable in the brain, and it's almost like you start thinking that people don't accept you, and it's like you get almost loud and obnoxious about your transition. I transitioned to be a girl. I just so happened to not mind my body the way it is, and so I'm not out there rah about myself. I'm not trying to shove it down people's throats. And I think honestly, when I let go of trying to prove who I was to the world, suddenly I became far more feminine, and I think it made me far more comfortable in my skin. And I think a lot of trans people actually just need to let the transition happen naturally. It's, to me, still my greatest gift. I love being trans. I love it. I hate that I have to take medication, because it's there's problems with that down the road. There's side effects and all kinds of things, but to be honest, I love being who I am. There was a guy who asked me out yesterday. Well, didn't ask me out, but he's barking up my tree. And I don't think he knew. He wrote me on Facebook, and he's very sweet. And actually, I'd added him about 6, 7 months ago because I thought he was quite handsome. And we chat for a couple of hours and talked about some things, like the new Jared Tolkien movie that's coming out, and Game of Thrones. And we got into this whole discussion. And, so what I did was, instead of telling him, because that was on Facebook, instead of telling him, and he lives here in Memphis, instead of explaining it to him, it was one of those things where I was like, I'm just going to add him on Instagram, and then he can see my posts, because I'm quite open on my Instagram about who I am. Facebook, I don't really post too much on there unless it's like a movie thing or a joke thing, but my Instagram is quite personal. And so I added him on there, and we'll see if we hear anything in the next few days. I don't know. He's very cute, but he seems like he'd be quite open-minded. But who knows? Anyway, and so my personal life, I don't want to go into details with my dating life currently right now. But my ex Danielle and I, she popped back up. Well, to be honest, she cut me out. She obviously from my past videos, everyone saw what happened. She completely cut me out, and I thought, and I said a couple of rude things to her, and I told her she would regret this. This was the day we broke up. I told her that she would regret this, and she said neither one of us are diamonds. And I just responded, this was the day we broke up, I responded with, no, I am a diamond, and I thought you were. And I think that came from a place of, I really know that I'm a good person. I know that my intentions in my heart are never to hurt someone, or to insult someone, or to cause someone pain, and I know that I've gone through some shit in my life. And so when I told her that, I meant it. And so I really like who I am, and I think I'm a good person in general. Everybody has their faults. There's shit that I do that's bad, but it's not like I'm out there to use people or hurt people. So anyway, she came back up into my life, and I sent her a birthday gift, and that's why she popped up. And I don't want to go into details. That's more private stuff, but we started chatting for a second, and then she stopped talking to me, and then she got almost like, for a few days she ignored me, and then she got really, I don't know. She's got some major issues, and I really wish her the best, but it's like she got very envious when I was out having dinner with people, and she thought I was on a date, and it's like she got real pissed off about it. I was like, dude, you got problems. Like, we're not together anymore. If you want to be with me, I already, stated my, what I wanted, and she knows where I stand, and it's like, but, I'm getting a little burnt out of just bullshit. I like myself too much to allow someone to abuse me mentally or whatever. And it's like, so anyway, yeah, I guess my personal life is pretty good. I think when I realized maybe about a year or two ago that I really like myself, it's made my transition a lot easier, and it's made my dating life a lot easier, and I didn't have to get validated by some surgery or by my looks. I just worked out. I took care of myself. I started eating right. I started cleaning my house, like clearing it out of all its junk. And it's when you get rid of things and you start to clear out your life, and you have a clear vision of exactly what you want to do, the type of person you want to be, the type of person you want to love, I think everything else kind of slots into place. And being trans is just a simple characteristic that falls into being a woman. So to me, like I said, being transgender is the greatest gift. And I hope I didn't offend anybody with a non-binary thing, but I really do find that a lot of trans people, you're a lot stronger than you think you are. And this is just all people on the spectrum. And they just use, terminology as a way to, like, get back at people or something. Anyway, I hope all is well, and you guys drop your thoughts and tell me what you think. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week. Bye.